Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the holographic display in her underground laboratory, watching as the simulation played out for the 100th time. The massive Meridian warship, nearly 5 kilometers in length, unleashed its devastating energy beam toward Earth's defensive fleet. But this time, something different happened. "Run quantum interference pattern Alpha 7, she commanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The simulation showed a small human vessel, barely 400 meters long, shimmer slightly as the energy beam approached. Instead of impacting the ship, the beam seemed to bend around it, like water flowing around a stone. "Quantum field stability at 97%, reported Dr. James Kumar, her chief assistant. "That's a 12% improvement over the last test." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The first in the 3 months since first contact had turned into humanity's worst nightmare. The Meridian Empire had arrived with their massive ships and energy-based technology, expecting Earth to surrender immediately. When humanity refused, they simply stated they would return in 6 months to either accept our surrender or begin systematic elimination of human civilization. "Send the data to Admiral Wang," Sarah ordered, her eyes still fixed on the simulation. "But mark it as theoretical. I don't want to give false hope." The quantum physics lab deep beneath the Rocky Mountains had become humanity's best chance for survival. While the rest of Earth's scientific community focused on copying Meridian energy weapon technology, Sarah had pursued a different path. The Meridians had mastered energy manipulation, but they'd completely ignored quantum mechanics, perhaps because their technology had developed along a different evolutionary path. Her desk computer chimed with an incoming priority message. Admiral Wang's weathered face appeared on the screen. "Dr. Chen, I just reviewed your preliminary data. How soon can you move from simulation to practical application?" Sarah ran her fingers through her short black hair, a habit when she was thinking deeply. "The quantum field generator works in principle, Admiral. But scaling it up from lab tests to ship-sized applications," she paused, calculating. 3 months, minimum. "The Meridians will be back in 2. Then we'll have to work faster." Sarah pulled up another simulation, this one showing the internal workings of their prototype quantum field generator. "The good news is that the smaller the ship, the more stable the field. We won't be able to protect the big battleships, but our corvettes and frigates could become effectively invisible to Meridian targeting systems." The Admiral's expression remained grave. "The Joint Chiefs won't like depending on small ships against the Meridian dreadnoughts. With all due respect, Admiral, we're already depending on a miracle. At least this one has math behind it." Kumar interrupted, his voice urgent. "Dr. Chen, you need to see this." He transferred a data stream to the main holographic display. Long-range telescopes just picked up Meridian scout ships entering the Kuiper Belt. "They're early." Sarah felt her blood run cold. "How many?" 3 ships, each about 2 kilometers in length. They appear to be running active scans of the entire system. Admiral Wang's voice hardened. "They're mapping our defenses. Dr. Chen, how soon can you have a working prototype? Not ship scale, just something we can test." Sarah studied the equations floating before her, running calculations in her head. The quantum field theory was solid. She bet her life on that. The problem was power generation and field stability. "But maybe. Give me the new Phantom-class corvette," she said suddenly. "The one they just finished at the lunar shipyards. The stealth ship." Admiral Wang frowned. "It's still in testing." "Exactly. It's already designed for minimal energy signatures. More importantly, it has the newest quantum core reactor. With some modifications, we could use the ship itself as a quantum field generator." Sarah's fingers flew over her console, pulling up the Corvette's specifications. "We'd need to reconfigure the power distribution system, install field emitters along the hull." "How long?" 2 weeks for the modifications, another week for testing. "If it works." She met the Admiral's gaze through the screen. "If it works, we'll have our miracle." The Admiral was silent for a long moment. "You'll have the ship in 3 days. I'm transferring Captain Maya Rodriguez to your command. She's been running the Phantom's test flights. She knows the ship better than anyone." After the Admiral signed off, Kumar approached Sarah's workstation. "You didn't tell him about the risks. If the quantum field destabilizes while active, then we'll learn something valuable in the microsecond before we're atomized." Sarah began typing commands into her system, preparing transfer orders for her core team. Better that than watching the Meridians turn Earth into their latest conquest. As if to emphasize her point, the holographic display shifted to show the incoming Meridian scouts. Their sleek, crystalline ships seemed to glow from within, powered by energy technology centuries ahead of humanity's best efforts. But Sarah knew something the Meridians didn't. Sometimes the biggest advantage came from thinking along completely different lines. The Meridians had mastered energy manipulation because they'd focused on it exclusively. But humanity's quantum research had taken us down a different path, one that might just let us turn their greatest strength against them. Energy weapons were devastating, but they followed rules. Quantum mechanics, on the other hand, seemed to break rules by its very nature. "Begin power-up sequence for the prototype generator," she ordered. "If we're going to have a working ship-based system in 3 weeks, we need to solve the field stability issue now." As her team scrambled to action, Sarah allowed herself a moment to appreciate the irony. The Meridians had arrived expecting to find a primitive civilization barely worth their attention. Instead, they might have inadvertently pushed humanity to make its greatest scientific leap forward. The real question was whether they could make that leap in time. Captain Maya Rodriguez walked through the modified corridors of the UES Phantom, running her hand along the newly installed quantum field emitters that lined the walls. The experimental corvette had been her home for 6 months during its initial trials, but now it felt like a different ship entirely. Dr. Chen's team had transformed it into something unprecedented, assuming it worked. "The quantum core is operating at 98% efficiency," Dr. Chen's voice came through the ship's comm system. "How's the field alignment looking from your end?" Maya checked the readouts on her wrist display. "Field emitters are green across the board." "But Sarah, these power fluctuations in Section 7 are within expected parameters," Sarah finished. "The field won't be perfectly stable. It can't be, by definition. We're literally bending probability around the ship." From her position in the control center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Sarah watched the Phantom's status indicators with intense focus. They'd had just 18 days to modify the corvette, installing experimental technology that by all rights should have taken months to perfect. But the Meridian scouts were getting bolder, pushing deeper into the solar system with each passing day. "Beginning primary field generator test," Maya announced. "All non-essential systems powered down, diverting full power to quantum core." The Phantom hung in high Earth orbit, its sleek black hull barely visible against the star field behind it. At just under 400 meters in length, it was tiny compared to the Meridian vessels. But if Sarah's theories were correct, size wouldn't matter. Quantum field activating in 3, 2, 1. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Maya felt it, a subtle shift in reality around her, as if the ship had taken a half-step sideways from normal spacetime. "Field is holding," Sarah reported, her voice tight with concentration. "Power consumption is within predicted limits." "Maya, begin the stealth test sequence." The Phantom slowly moved through a series of predetermined maneuvers, while automated sensor platforms scattered around Earth's orbit tracked its progress, or tried to. Energy sensors, radar, gravimetric detection. One by one, they reported the same thing. The Phantom had become a ghost. "It's working," Kumar breathed, staring at the readings. "The quantum field is perfectly scrambling our energy signature. Even the ship's mass appears to fluctuate from the outside." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Captain, proceed to Phase 2. Let's see how it holds up under stress." Maya nodded, though no one could see her, initiating combat simulation. She engaged the Phantom's engines, pushing the ship to its maximum acceleration. The quantum field rippled but held steady, adapting to the changing conditions. Then the proximity alarm blared. Meridian scout ship detected. Kumar's voice cracked with alarm. They must have been hiding behind the moon. They're on an intercept course. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. Maya, get out of there. The field hasn't been tested against their sensors yet. Negative. Maya's voice was calm, despite the situation. This is exactly the test we need. Permission to maintain course. There was a long pause. Granted, Sarah finally replied. But be ready to disengage the field if it starts to destabilize. The Meridian Scout was massive compared to the Phantom, its crystalline hull glowing with contained energy. It swept the space around it with powerful scanning beams, standard procedure for their patrol patterns. Maya held her breath as one of the beams passed directly through the Phantom's position. They're not reacting, Kumar reported, incredulous. Their sensors, they're not registering the Phantom at all. Maya allowed herself a tight smile. Confirming their blind spot. Moving to parallel course. The Phantom slipped alongside the Meridian vessel, close enough that Maya could make out individual details of its alien architecture through the bridge viewport. The Scout continued its patrol, completely unaware of the human ship flying barely a kilometer away. This is incredible, Sarah whispered, watching the sensor feeds. Their energy-based detection systems literally cannot process what the quantum field is doing. It's like we're operating on a completely different layer of reality. Dr. Chen. Maya's voice carried a note of anticipation. Request permission to take this test one step further. Sarah studied the tactical display, understanding what Maya was suggesting. You want to test the offensive capabilities. We need to know if this works both ways. Another pause. Proceed. But weapons at minimum power only. Maya brought the Phantom into position behind the Meridian Scout. The corvette's main gun was a relatively simple coil gun, primitive by Meridian standards, but modified to work with the quantum field technology. Target locked. Firing. The coil gun round, wrapped in its own tiny quantum field, passed straight through the Meridian's energy shields as if they didn't exist. It impacted the crystalline hull with a small flash, leaving a visible scar. The Meridian ship immediately came alive, energy weapons charging as it spun in place, searching for its attacker. But the Phantom was already gone, slipping away under the protection of its quantum field. Test successful, Maya reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from her voice. Returning to Earth orbit. In the control center, Sarah stared at the test results with a mixture of hope and trepidation. They'd just proven that humanity had a viable defense against Meridian technology, and more importantly, a way to fight back. But she couldn't shake the feeling that they'd just crossed a line. Begin analyzing all test data, she ordered her team. I want the quantum field generators optimized and ready for mass production within 2 weeks. And get me Admiral Wong. He needs to see this immediately. As the Phantom descended toward its lunar base, Maya looked back at the Meridian Scout, still searching in vain for what had attacked it. They thought their energy technology made them invincible, she mused. I wonder how they'll react when they realize they can't even see us coming. Let's hope we never have to find out, Sarah responded. But they both knew it was too late for that. The Meridians would return in force, expecting to find a helpless Earth waiting to be conquered. Instead, they would find something entirely different, a humanity that had learned to fight back using the very laws of quantum physics itself. Admiral Wong stood in Earth's primary defense command center, watching as 35 quantum-modified corvettes moved into position around Jupiter's orbit. Each ship was a copy of the Phantom, modified according to Dr. Chen's specifications. They were humanity's best hope, and they were about to be tested. Meridian battle fleet detected entering the solar system. The sensor officer announced. Initial count shows 27 capital ships, largest vessel measuring 7 kilometers in length. Sarah Chen, newly promoted to Defense Science Director, studied the tactical display. All quantum cores are operating within parameters. Field stability is holding across the fleet. The Meridian deadline had arrived 2 days early. Their message was simple: surrender Earth or face extinction. Humanity's answer was already on its way, carried by the ghost fleet of quantum corvettes. Captain Maya Rodriguez, now commanding the entire stealth squadron, watched the massive Meridian ships approach. Their crystalline hulls pulsed with barely contained energy, weapons charged and ready. They expected no real resistance, just another primitive civilization to add to their empire. All ships maintain quantum fields at maximum. Maya transmitted to her fleet. Remember your training. We hit as planned, then fade before they can track us. No heroics. The Meridian fleet moved past Mars orbit in perfect formation, their energy shields creating a dazzling light show as they overlapped and reinforced each other. Their tactical doctrine was based on overwhelming force and impenetrable defenses. They had never needed to change it. Until now. Ghost Fleet, execute Operation Shadow Strike. Admiral Wong commanded. Maya's squadron split into 5 groups, each targeting a specific set of Meridian vessels. The quantum fields made them completely invisible to Meridian sensors, allowing them to slip between the massive ships unchallenged. All ships, weapons free, Maya ordered. Execute primary strike pattern. 35 quantum-shielded coilgun rounds struck simultaneously, each passing through Meridian energy shields as if they weren't there. The impacts were precisely targeted, hitting vital sensor nodes and weapons emplacements. The Meridian ships immediately began firing in all directions, their energy beams slicing through empty space. Second volley, prepare to fire, Maya commanded. Target their primary power distribution nodes. Time on target in 3, 2, 1. Another coordinated strike, another series of precise hits. The Meridian fleet's perfect formation began to waver as ships lost power to key systems. Their energy weapons continued firing wildly, but without sensor locks, they were shooting blind. In the command center, Sarah watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and concern. Their energy signatures are changing, she noted. They're trying to adapt their shields, cycling through different frequencies. Will it work? Admiral Wong asked. No, Sarah replied. The quantum field doesn't operate on any frequency they can detect. It's not just bending light or energy. It's bending probability itself around our ships. The battle continued as the Ghost Fleet struck again and again, each hit precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy. The Meridian ships began to break formation, trying to create space between themselves to minimize the damage. They're falling back to their secondary defensive formation, Maya reported. But something's wrong. Their movements are too erratic. Sarah leaned forward, studying the sensor data. They're panicking, she realized. Their entire military doctrine is based on being the strongest force in any battle. They don't know how to handle an enemy they can't even see. In space, the Meridian fleet's neat formations had devolved into chaos. Several ships had lost main power, drifting in space with only emergency systems operating. Others fired continuously, trying to hit targets they couldn't detect, while some began retreating toward the outer system. Status report, Admiral Wong demanded. 17 Meridian capital ships have lost primary power, Maya responded. 6 have suffered critical damage to their weapon systems. The remainder are in full retreat. Ghost Fleet has sustained minimal damage. 3 ships reporting minor field fluctuations but no failures. The Admiral allowed himself a small smile. Pursue and harry the retreating vessels. Make sure they understand that there's nowhere in this system they can hide from us. Maya's fleet moved like shadows through space, continuing to strike the retreating Meridian ships. Each hit was precisely calculated, systematically dismantling the aliens' capability to wage war without destroying their vessels entirely. Sir, the communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the Meridian flagship. They're requesting a ceasefire. The command center fell silent. After centuries of unchallenged expansion, the Meridian Empire had just suffered its first major defeat, and they still had no idea how it had happened. "Hold position," Admiral Wong ordered the Ghost Fleet, "but maintain quantum fields at maximum." "Director Chen, what's your assessment?" Sarah studied the battle data carefully. The quantum fields performed better than expected, but the Meridians aren't stupid. They'll analyze this battle extensively. We need to assume they'll develop new tactics. Let them try. Maya transmitted from her command ship. Every counter they develop will be based on their understanding of energy manipulation. They're still fighting the last war, while we're fighting the next one. As the damaged Meridian fleet limped away from Earth, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what would come next. They'd won this battle by completely changing the rules of engagement. But the war was far from over, and the Meridians would return, probably with something new. "Begin analyzing all battle data," she ordered her team. "I want to know everything about how their ships try to adapt. And start working on Phase 2 modifications to the quantum field generators. We need to stay ahead of whatever they throw at us next." The Ghost Fleet reassembled in Earth orbit, their quantum fields rippling silently in the darkness of space. They had just proven that humanity could stand against the greatest military force in known space, but Sarah knew the real test was still to come. The Meridians would adapt. They had to. The question was, could humanity adapt faster? 3 months after Earth's victory, the Meridian counterattack came. But this time, they weren't alone. Multiple quantum field disruptions detected. Kumar's voice carried across the Defense Command Center. "They're using some kind of probability anchor device. It's forcing our ships back into normal spacetime." Sarah Chen watched in horror as the quantum fields protecting Earth's Ghost Fleet began to fail one by one. The Meridians had brought something new, massive ships trailing clouds of strange, crystalline particles that seemed to stabilize probability itself in their wake. All ships, emergency protocols. Maya Rodriguez commanded from the bridge of the Phantom. Disengage quantum fields and retreat to secondary positions. But retreat wasn't an option. The Meridian fleet had emerged simultaneously from multiple vectors, using their new technology to create zones where quantum manipulation became impossible. Earth's Ghost Fleet found itself caught in a carefully planned trap. "They've been studying us," Sarah realized, her mind racing. "Those aren't just probability anchors. They're using harvested quantum crystals. They found a way to crystallize stable quantum states." Admiral Wong's expression was grim. "Can we counter it?" "Maybe." Sarah's fingers flew across her console. Maya, route all power through the secondary quantum manifolds. Don't try to maintain a full field. Pulse it instead, microsecond bursts only. The Phantom shimmered as Maya implemented the changes. Instead of maintaining a constant quantum field, the ship began rapidly shifting between normal space and quantum states. It wasn't perfect stealth anymore, but it gave them a fighting chance. "All functioning ships, copy the Phantom's modifications," Maya ordered. "Pattern your pulses randomly. Don't let them predict your phase shifts." The battle devolved into a deadly dance of energy beams and quantum-shifted ships. The Meridians had clearly prepared for this engagement, but they hadn't expected humanity to adapt so quickly to their countermeasures. Their probability anchors had a limited range, Sarah observed, studying the sensor data. And they can't maintain full coverage without sacrificing their offensive capabilities. "Send the data to Maya," Admiral Wong ordered. "Let's exploit this weakness before they realize it exists." The Ghost Fleet began operating in pairs, one ship pulsing its quantum field to draw Meridian fire, while the other slipped through gaps in their probability anchor coverage. It wasn't as effective as their previous tactics, but it kept them in the fight. "Director Chen," Kumar called out suddenly, "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the Meridian command ship. They're trying to generate their own quantum fields." Sarah's blood ran cold. "They're not just countering our technology. They're trying to replicate it, but without a proper understanding of quantum mechanics, they're going to." She never finished the sentence. The Meridian flagship's attempt to generate a quantum field resulted in a cascading probability failure. Reality itself seemed to warp around the massive vessel as conflicting quantum states tried to resolve themselves. All ships, clear the area, Maya commanded. They're causing a quantum cascade. The Ghost Fleet retreated as the Meridian flagship began to break apart, its crystalline structure shattering as probability itself rebelled against their crude attempt at quantum manipulation. The resulting explosion sent waves of distorted space-time rippling through the battlefield. Status report, Admiral Wong demanded once the chaos subsided. 8 ghost ships lost, Maya responded, her voice tight. But the Meridians lost their flagship and 3 probability anchor ships. The rest are retreating to regroup. In the command center, Sarah was already analyzing data from the battle. They understand enough about quantum mechanics now to counter our fields, but not enough to safely replicate them. That gives us an advantage, but not for long. How many hours do you need? Maya asked over the comm. Hours? Sarah managed a grim smile. Try minutes. I think I know how we can use their own probability anchors against them. But I'll need direct access to a captured anchor device. Then you'll have one, Maya replied. Ghost Fleet, form up on my position. We're going hunting. As the remaining quantum ships moved to pursue the retreating Meridians, Sarah turned to Admiral Wong. Sir, I need authorization to attempt something extremely dangerous. If I'm right, we can turn this whole situation around. If I'm wrong, do it, the Admiral interrupted. Whatever it takes. We can't let them fully develop quantum technology. Not with their level of power generation. Sarah nodded and began transmitting new instructions to the Ghost Fleet. The Meridians had just proven they could adapt to humanity's quantum advantage. Now it was time to show them why copying technology you don't fully understand was a dangerous gamble. Maya, she transmitted to the Phantom. When you secure that probability anchor, I need you to do something very specific with it. We're going to teach the Meridians a lesson about quantum uncertainty, one they'll never forget. The battle wasn't over. In fact, it was about to enter a phase that would rewrite the rules of warfare yet again. But this time, humanity wasn't just fighting with superior tactics, they were fighting with superior understanding. And in the quantum realm, understanding was everything. The captured Meridian probability anchor sat in Sarah Chen's laboratory, its crystalline structure pulsing with an otherworldly glow. For 3 days straight, she had studied it, probed it, and finally understood it. Now she knew exactly how to use it against its creators. They fundamentally misunderstand what they've created, she explained to Admiral Wong and Maya Rodriguez, who had returned to Earth for this critical briefing. These aren't just probability anchors, they're quantum state crystallizers. The Meridians found a way to force quantum particles into stable crystalline patterns. And that's what disrupts our quantum fields? Maya asked, studying the device. Yes, but it's also their greatest weakness. Sarah activated a holographic display showing the anchor's internal structure. They're so focused on forcing stability that they've made themselves vulnerable to induced quantum collapse. We don't need to fight their anchors. We need to overload them. Admiral Wong leaned forward. How? By turning our quantum fields inside out, Sarah replied. Instead of using them to hide our ships, we'll project them outward. When they interact with the Meridian anchors, it'll create a cascading quantum entanglement effect. Their own technology will become their undoing. The Meridians are amassing for another attack, the Admiral noted. Long-range sensors show 3 times the number of ships as last time. They're not taking any chances. Good, Sarah smiled. The more probability anchors they bring, the better this will work. Maya, is the Ghost Fleet ready for the modifications? All surviving ships have been upgraded according to your specifications, Maya confirmed, though I still think this plan is insane. Sometimes insanity is just physics we don't understand yet, Sarah replied. Speaking of which, are you ready for your part? Maya nodded grimly. The Phantom will get you close enough. Just make sure your calculations are right, or we'll both get to experience quantum dissolution firsthand. The Meridian attack came 2 days later. Their fleet emerged from hyperspace in a massive sphere formation, probability anchor ships strategically positioned to create overlapping fields of quantum stability. Behind them came their capital ships, weapons charged and ready. They're not taking any chances this time, Maya observed from the Phantom's bridge. They're expecting our hit-and-run tactics. Then let's show them something new, Sarah replied from her newly installed station aboard the Phantom. The ship had been specially modified for this mission, its quantum field generators reconfigured to project energy outward rather than inward. All ghost ships maintain standard quantum fields, Admiral Wong commanded from Earth. Draw their attention while the Phantom moves into position. The battle began as the Meridians expected. Earth's ghost fleet engaged in their familiar tactics, pulsing their quantum fields to slip through gaps in the anchor coverage. The Meridians responded with precisely coordinated energy barrages, herding the human ships into zones covered by their probability anchors. They're so confident in their understanding of quantum mechanics, Sarah murmured, making final adjustments to her calculations. They never stop to consider that stability isn't always an advantage. Energy spike from the Meridian command ship, Kumar reported from Earth. They're powering up something big. That's our cue, Sarah announced. Maya, take us in. Right through the heart of their formation. The Phantom accelerated toward the center of the Meridian fleet, its modified quantum field humming with power. Enemy ships tried to target them, but Sarah's calculations were perfect. They slipped through gaps in the anchor coverage that the Meridians didn't even know existed. Quantum core at maximum power, Sarah reported. Initiating field inversion in 3, 2, 1. The Phantom's quantum field exploded outward, not as a weapon but as a catalyst. As it encountered the Meridian probability anchors, it didn't fight against their stabilizing effect. It enhanced it. The crystalline structures began to resonate, their perfectly ordered quantum states becoming too perfect, too stable. It's working, Sarah announced, watching her readings. The quantum resonance is propagating through their entire network of anchors. They're trying to compensate by increasing power, but that's just making it worse. The Meridian ships began to shine with increasing brightness as their probability anchors went into overdrive, trying to maintain quantum stability in an increasingly unstable environment. But the more they tried to force order, the more chaos they created. All ghost ships, clear the engagement zone, Maya commanded. Phase 2 is about to begin. The first probability anchor exploded in a burst of quantum energy, its perfectly ordered structure shattering into quantum chaos. The effect cascaded through the Meridian fleet as anchor after anchor reached critical stability and failed. Their attempts to maintain order had created the perfect conditions for collapse. Their main weapons are going offline, Kumar reported from Earth. The quantum cascade is affecting all their energy-based technology. In space, the mighty Meridian fleet found itself paralyzed. Their energy weapons, their shields, even their basic power systems, all were being disrupted by waves of quantum instability that their own technology had amplified. Meridian command ship is broadcasting, the communications officer announced. They're requesting terms of surrender. Admiral Wong looked at Sarah. Is it over? The battle is, she replied. But this is just the beginning. The Meridians tried to master quantum mechanics through brute force, without understanding its true nature. Now they know that's impossible. They'll be back, but next time it will be to learn, not to conquer. Maya's voice came through the comm. Speaking of learning, some of their probability anchor technology is salvageable. Their basic principles were sound, just, incomplete, with their crystallization techniques and our quantum manipulation. We could revolutionize space travel, Sarah finished. Maybe that was the real purpose of all this, to bring together two different approaches to understanding the universe. As the Ghost Fleet moved to secure the disabled Meridian ships, Sarah looked out at the battlefield where quantum physics had just rewritten the rules of space warfare. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, not just surviving but evolving. "You know what the Meridian's real mistake was?" she asked Maya as they watched the cleanup begin. "Underestimating us." "No," Sarah smiled. "They thought technology alone was enough. They forgot that the most powerful force in the universe isn't energy or quantum fields or even probability itself. It's understanding. And that's something that can never be taken away, only shared." The quantum age of human history had begun, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other civilizations were about to learn that sometimes the smallest ships could carry the biggest changes.